Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. It is Saturday. We are at GearFest 2012, and I am joined by Lee Roy Parnell.
Hi, Mitch.
Thanks for coming in.
How are you?
Good to see you. I'm
Good
great.
to see you.
I'm great. Thanks
At
for coming up to
last.
GearFest. Yeah.
Oh, man, you bet. This is something.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here.
Golly, lots of folks, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the biggest one ever.
Wow.
Keeps growing.
Wow.
And you're going to be giving a seminar here shortly.
I'm told I am.
Yeah, going to be showing the guitar, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And playing some slides. So
Play a little guitar.
good stuff. So you obviously a lot of success in your career. 20 Billboard Hot Country singles.
Wow.
And,
You know more
albums,
about
all
it
that
than I
kind of
do.
stuff. Yeah, lots going on there. Lots of co-writing and songwriting with artists in Nashville, Shelby Lynn, Steve Wariner, people like that. Lots of stuff.
Yeah, it's been a good run up there in Nashville. You know, I moved from Texas up there during what Steve Earle likes to call the Great Integrity Scare of the early '90s, and
That's great.
And I don't know, one thing led to another, and we've just kind of stayed there. The band's based out of there. It's easy.
Okay.
It's easy to get in and out. So
Right. Well, I was actually amazed. Your first appearance on stage with Bob Wills at age 6. How did that happen?
well, my father and Bob grew up together,
Okay.
and they ran off when Bob was 16, Dad was 14, and they joined Dr. Tate's traveling medicine show
How about that?
and selling elixir.
Uh-huh.
Because of course the aunts and uncles and grannies and mamas didn't want any alcohol in the house, so
Right.
but that was medicine. Of course, it was 50% alcohol.
Right.
You know?
But it made you feel better,
It
right?
did make them feel better, and they'd buy a case of it at a time.
I bet.
Yeah,
I bet.
but literally they did. They traveled all over Oklahoma and Texas, and they remained friends. Bob continued on, of course, and my father went back to his father had fallen ill, and he, being the oldest child, had to go back and take care of business. So,
Right.
but they remained friends till the end, and so it was a very impromptu thing that happened. It was on the radio actually in Fort Worth, and Dad and I had gone over to see Bob's show in the afternoon. They would tape in the afternoon. And on Saturday afternoons, and Bob was very much an impromptu guy. I mean, you never knew what he was going to do, and I kind of carried that on with me. You know, you never knew what was going to happen. And he said, just called me up. He said, Leroy, why don't you come up here and sing? When my dad had to hold me up to that big old RCA mic up there, you know. And
That's great.
Luckily, my mother was she had a Voice of Music, 1-track, reel-to-reel tape recorder, and so she taped it at the ranch.
Oh, wow.
Sitting home holding the mic in front of the radio set.
Right.
So it, Roger Nichols, God rest his soul, he tried to clean that up because there's so many whistles and pops, and I mean, we lived way out. We lived like 80 miles from Fort Worth, so
Right.
you'd hear all kinds of things out there, dogs barking, cows, and everything else. But and then that kind of carried on, and we continued to do that. And but Bob was a very integral part of my musical upbringing, I suppose.
Right. So when did you start playing guitar?
Dad had, and I still have it. He had a silver tone, which I'm sure was a harmony at the time. It was a cool old jazz box.
Right, probably from Sears in those days, right?
Was. And he had it since the 40s. So anyway, that I had started messing around with it when I was little, but I wanted to play drums first. I think all kids want to play drums.
It's noisy, right?
We have just something to beat on, Right. And my mother got sick of me stealing her pots and pans and making my own drum kit, so
Right.
I got a couple of drums from friends. I'd trade, bicycle tires and things like that. But drums was first.
Okay.
I quickly figured out that all the girls were in front in front of the stage were looking at the guitar player.
Okay.
So I left the drums behind. You know, I got some drummer friends that would disagree with me. I'm
Yeah,
sure
right.
now. And moved to the front of the stage, and when I was about 12,
Okay.
and we were playing dances by the time I was 16.
Wow. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So did you immediately jump into playing slide, or was that something you got into later?
You know, in listening to Western swing as much as we did around my house, as you can imagine,
Mm-hmm.
it was the blues element in Western swing that caught my ear.
Okay.
Milk Cow Blues, Brown Clouded Blues, you know, Trouble in Mind, you know. All those songs
Right.
were the ones that really met my ear, and I was just crazy about them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard rock and roll for the first time, I realized it was exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That they were just, you know, basically that's what it was. You know?
Right. Just
The
amping
boys
it up
in
a little bit,
Memphis. Yeah.
Right.
Hillbillies on speed. Yeah.
Right. So you got into the slide to kind of emulate the Western swing style,
I
the pedal
think
steel.
so.
and the-
I think that probably that and those cats, Junior Bernard, guitar player, and of course Eldon Shamlin, fantastic rhythm player.
Mm-hmm.
Changed chords with every beat, you know, to keep that bottom end moving, you know.
Right.
But the bending, there was a lot of bending of notes back then, and I think I liked the emotional pull that kind of pulls on us still today.
Sure.
And the slide was even more so because there were some great not lap steel players. They all stood up,
Mm-hmm.
but still there were no pedals. You know,
That's right, yeah.
Not until late. You know, like 65, maybe 66,
Somewhere around there, right.
maybe something like that.
So they're more of a console
Yeah.
steel, I think. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly what they're calling it. I know exactly what you mean, though. With it. Yeah.
Yes, and a dear friend of mine, for playing at his wedding, gave me a 1950 triple neck Fender steel and a 50 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And I had Dan Dugmore over doing a session the other day, and Dan played through that old 50s Pro, and you know, first of all, having Dan play, you know,
Right.
every time I see him, I can't. I just hear Blue Bayou. I hear that beautiful solo on Blue Bayou.
Right.
He's just a fantastic man and a great friend of mine. But he played through that, and I just loved the notes between the notes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think, and later on I learned that they were actually called blue notes.
Mhm.
You know, as the producers and stuff. When I
Right.
started working later on, when I started making records. And they said, well, that's all blue notes. You play all blue notes.
Right.
And I said, I do?
Right.
I thought I was just out of tune.
Oh, man, it's the blue notes.
It's jazz, man.
Yeah, right. Right. That's great. That's great. So you moved to Nashville in around '87.
Yeah.
And your first album was in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you land the record deal and start doing that solo work?
You know, it was funny. My cousin, Robert Earl Keene, and Lyle Lovett, Lyle and Robert Earl were great friends. And I knew Lyle from Texas, of course. And they had gone up and both gotten publishing deals.
Okay.
And they called me. I had 2 kids at the time and was struggling, you know, in Austin, just trying to make ends meet with the kids and everything. And they said, you know, they're paying people up here to write songs. I mean, you can literally get money out of a publisher if you would come up here and write songs. And I thought that sounded like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
I hated to leave Texas. I didn't want to, but
Sure.
sometimes as providers for our families, we have to do things of that sort of thing. But I had enough money to last me 6 months.
Okay.
I had $1,000 a month that paid for my child support, and $200 for a beautifully furnished apartment in East Nashville.
Right.
And that gave me $200 more to eat on and for gas money.
Mm-hmm.
It was times were lean.
Yeah, right.
And 6 months is all I had. And it was in like 5 months and 2 weeks time. I had landed a publishing deal at Polygram.
Nice.
Thank God.
Yeah, nice.
And then the record deal subsequently came as Clive Davis and Tim Dubois were my champions and heroes, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Right. So 8 albums since then, correct?
Let's see. There were the Arista albums, and then there was the Vanguard album, Tell the Truth, and then Universal, we did Back to the Well, which was the last one we did. So however many that is.
Okay, I think it's 8.
Is that what it is?
That's what I counted.
Okay, 8.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, exactly. But you've also really kept up the songwriting part of it. That's been a big part of your career as well.
Yeah. That's something I just do every day. I was up this morning at 7 o'clock. I was up writing, and when I should have been sleeping, but I had this idea, for this song, and those things they'll just keep needling me until I get up and write them down. And that first mailbox money was pretty. I remember walking out there in my robe and opening my mailbox and seeing a check for $50,000, and I thought,
wow,
I think I can do this.
Yeah,
I think
get a nicer apartment.
Yeah. Paint it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when you for example, this morning, what's your process? Do you get a lyric? Do you get a guitar idea? How do you start a song, and do you actually write it down, or do you put it into a recorder? How do you do it?
Both. I don't leave anything to chance. I mean, to the point where I actually have a little office in Nashville where I go to get away, and no phones, and there's no editing allowed in that room. I mean, it's all creative flow and let it all come out. There's no such thing as a dumb idea and all these things that we have to unlearn, almost. But I'll put, I'll use GarageBand.
Okay.
For I'll use that because it's easy. I have a little USB mic that I use, but just in case, I'm still so paranoid because I've lost things digitally before that I still have my old cassette recorder, and I just baby that thing, and it sits right there, and I lay that sucker on. Now, if they ever stop making cassette tapes, I'm going to be in real trouble.
Stock up, yeah.
Yeah, I know. But that way, you got it.
Yeah, right.
And we'll sometimes it's a lyric. Somebody will say something, or I'll hear something, or I'll feel something. I've been usually almost 99% of the time it's a personal experience that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because I'm not unique, so we're all God's kids, and we're just, I figure if it happened to me, chances are it's happened to you, or it's going to.
Right.
So those are the things that's a human condition.
Right.
That touches me.
Right.
The most, I believe.
Yeah. Wonderful. Then you just develop it from there.
Yeah, and the music sometimes. I mean, occasionally, Dickie Betts and I were talking about this not long ago, and occasionally the music will come before the lyric, but usually it's a lyric idea, and then the music sort of fits the lyric. I think, at least for me, everybody's different.
Sure.
But for me, it's certainly that way.
Right. Yeah.
I songwriting is Roger Miller used to say, co-writing. He said, no. He said that's something you want to do under the porch by yourself somewhere, so nobody can see.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, God. Well, but I mean, I was lucky enough to be in Nashville at the time, and I was at a publishing company, Polygram, where we had some great writers on that floor. And it was probably the end of that era. Right. I was there for 12 years as a staff writer. And the Bob McDill, who I can't even count all the hits Bob had, Roy Burke. I mean, we had like 15 or 20 old timers up there that were, which would be me now, you know, by the way. They were, if you had a problem with a song, you could go to them and you could say, I'm having trouble with the second verse. And Bob might look at it and say, well, the problem is it's the second verse. Your first verse is really your second verse. You haven't written your first verse yet.
Okay, right.
Little things like that.
Right, but just the experience of having done it so much, you could spot that. And
yeah. They had been doing it so long that there were little tricks that they knew, you know, that and they were so kind to share them with me.
Right.
And we helped each other along.
Right. That's kind of a Nashville music community thing, though. You know, it's a tight community. There's a lot of kind of people working together and a lot of co-writing and a lot of collaborations on stuff, which is a great thing.
It is. I'm very grateful to. I have some wonderful co-writers that I work with: Gary Nicholson, Tony Arata, Greg Barnhill. As of late, he and I have written just a bunch of songs in the last year. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to cut that album in New Orleans. He's a New Orleans guy, and it just the whole thing is gonna. It's a Creole Texan kind of jumbled up kind of weird deal.
Right.
But it's going to be fun.
Is that going to be an album for you?
Oh yeah.
Oh great. Yeah. So you're going to put the slide on top of that. That'll be good.
Yeah.
That's going to be nice.
I think Little Feat kind of had that idea too.
Right.
You know, that was sort of Lowell's and the rest of the guys too. You know, I'm a big fan of those guys.
Yeah,
and Bonnie Raitt, of course, and Cab Mo, who's my dear friend and workout partner.
Nice.
Now he's moved to Nashville, so I have a very good songwriter who's also happens to be about a foot taller than me and tells me what to do in the gym.
There you go. Somebody push it a
Ben
little
Skill saw us playing basketball one day, and he said he was laughing so hard. He said it looked like a chihuahua chasing a giraffe on the court.
That's awesome.
I know. Life is a wonderful thing. It's just it's an experience that it should be enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And music, I think, what would we do without music, Mitch?
Yeah. Be a much darker world, wouldn't it?
It would be indeed.
Yeah. So speaking of enjoying, I was checking out the new signature model Les Paul.
Oh, yes.
And enjoying playing that, but you've got one set up for slide here. We also had one earlier that you had set up for just regular playing.
Yes,
but tell us what makes the signature model different.
Well, at first glance, it might look like just like a 57 reissue, but I assure you it is not. There's even the color is a little darker, a little richer. Mm-hmm. So I was 15 when I bought my 56, and I'm a 56 model myself.
Right.
So,
and you played the heck out of that.
I've had that guitar since I've still got it. I've had it since I was 15. I'm 55, so there you go.
Yeah.
And we've been together all that time. And I just fell in love with Les Pauls, and I just always loved them. And when Gibson came to me and said, we want to do a signature model, mm-hmm. I jumped at the chance. The custom shop, Rick Gimbar and those boys out there, just fabulous people. Mm-hmm. And so he said, just take the time you need to get it right. So with the help of Philip Wharton, who I've got to give credit to, and certainly Ron Ellis, who did these pickups, mm-hmm. And we worked very, very hard on those. Ron, I should say, we did. Ron, lot of time and effort and love put into that. The main differences, other than the neck shape profile, is somewhat different. And if you notice, it's got it almost has a.
It's like a satin finish to it.
Yes, it feels played in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
When you pick it up, the Stinger thing was just an idea of Phillips to make it a little bit different. Oh, mm-hmm. This is LRP 100.
Number 100, yeah.
Number 100. Wow,
nice.
How about that? We also, as a slide player, I ran into trouble. So I had an SG early, I had to sell it to get my Les Paul. Mm-hmm. I think I sold the SG for $75, and I paid $300 for the Les Paul.
Wow. Did okay on that.
Everybody.
Yeah, these days, looking back on that, right?
Yeah.
Wish you could get one for 300 now.
Yeah, if you tell that story to Billy Gibbons, he'll turn around and put some fives in his eyes, and you know. I just saw it the other night.
Yeah.
By the way, Billy.
That's great.
Yeah, but getting up here was a problem. And it's almost to the point where I would never look when I would get, if I was playing above of the D fret. I would just close my eyes because it doesn't matter any. You're talking about frets anyway. You're talking about the note itself. So
Right.
we took this cutaway and we created a little bit more space. I don't know the best way to show this to the camera, but this part of the front of the guitar is exactly the same dimensions as any other Les Paul, except it bends away here.
Right, it kind of slopes back.
It does.
And it gives your hand space to kind of fit in there when you have the slide on it.
More
right?
here,
Yeah.
more here, and which is a natural, normal thing, which made it a little bit easier for me to get up there.
I noticed it right away when I picked it up.
Did
and
you?
You run your fingers up there, yeah, you can feel right away there's more space.
It is good, but we did, and we also took this. We took this down just a little bit. This heel down just a little bit. We didn't want it. I mean, the access, is gone.
Rounds it way off, right?
But for players like myself who've been playing Les Pauls all their lives, that a lot of times I'll keep my eyes closed the whole time I'm doing a solo. So that's kind of tells me where I am.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't want to take it away. I just wanted it to be a little less prominent. So that structurally was different. The other thing is that under these pickups, everyone always asked me why I kept my pickups so low. Now this one came off the floor, so they're setting up a little higher than I would keep mine. But I always kept my pickup sunk down in my guitar. And people would say, why are you doing that? Because, everybody's, especially in like the late 80s, early 90s, stronger the pickup. That was the
You want that
idea.
output. Yeah, right.
My problem with that is that all you heard was string. You couldn't hear the wood of the guitar. And if you did, you were hearing the maple and not the mahogany. So we raised, if you took these pickups out and you looked down in there, there is a big blocks, what we call that thing down there. We used to call it tone throne, but everybody thought that would get made fun of. Yes. And so it's essentially this, if you drop that down another quarter of an inch, it'll be sitting right on the wood itself.
Okay.
So the vibration of the mahogany is actually, you're getting the whole thing, everything you're feeling in your belly from the back of that guitar,
Right.
you're hearing through that pickup.
So the pickup's actually contacting the wood, and as
It
the wood
is.
resonates, then the pickup is moving,
It is.
and then the strings are moving, so there's a little different interaction there than most people where they suspend the pickup,
Yes.
and it kind of floats. So that's the difference that you're going for.
Yeah, and it was a total bet. We didn't know. We didn't know if it would make a difference or not, but it did. And we even routed out so the set screws would go down into the wood.
Okay.
So you're even getting you're far in, you're about as far into it as you
Right.
can get.
So you want the bobbins resting right on there, not
You
just
do.
the pole pieces. Huh.
You do.
Interesting. Interesting.
So, and Ron, I got to brag on Ron just a minute about these pickups. He worked so hard, and we were back and forth to San Diego and to Nashville and back and forth. These things, every PA I've ever played sounded different. So if we were looking for a PAF sound, which PAF are you talking about?
Right.
So we just decided to scrap that whole idea and just make the best sounding humbucker pickup we could.
Okay.
And the whole idea, I felt like, I never liked high output pickup for reasons we already discussed. But the other thing is I wanted the neck pickup to have a bell-like tone. You know what I mean? Where it not a soupy kind of dark tone, but more like Charlie Christian pickup. You know,
Okay.
would have sounded,
Right.
which were very low output as well.
Right.
So, to go into all of the magnetizing and then the degaussing, and I mean, there's a lot to it.
Sure.
But we got there. This pickup is it just sounds like every guitar I ever wanted to sound. This pickup does it.
Mm-hmm.
This pickup, these are, I think, 7.2 or so. I think 7.6 is 7.2. I think.
Right.
And they may vary a little bit. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Sure they do. But this one almost sounds single coilish
Has that
as
top
well.
end? Yeah.
And I think the whole idea behind the humbucker anyway was, just think about it, 1957, you had wiring hanging everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
no grounds.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about hum on
Right.
stage. So the humbucker was not meant to be a louder pickup.
No. No, I think it was originally designed to be a hum-free version of the P90.
Thank you.
And so that top end was
Thank
kind of
you.
more where I think people think of PAFs and lower output and less top end, but it's really not the way that most of them sound, actually.
That is absolutely true.
Right.
Thank God. I mean, and that, you know, and people I think are getting onto that again. You know, they're figuring it out again.
Yeah, there's been a real move toward low output.
Indeed.
So.
Indeed, I think so. And the hand and the neck, of course, is rolled. It's somewhere between I have a 58 as well, and this neck is somewhere between a 58 and where my old 56 sits.
Okay.
So I just sit in there until I got it just about right, and they hadn't missed yet. Every one of them is very consistent.
Awesome. I can't wait to plug it in and check it out.
I want you.
And we're going to...
I want you to have this.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Mitch.
You can't give this to me, but I would appreciate it, but...
Now that's too.
No, what a beautiful guitar.
That's those are big strings. That's for the slide. So.
Yeah, right.
And it's tuned to A too, so don't let it fool you. Don't jump out there and play Purple Haze.
Oh, right.
It's
I'll
gonna
be
sound
careful.
funny.
That's wonderful. But I can't wait to hear you take it on stage.
Thanks.
And play
buddy.
through, man. That's great.
Well,
Thanks for taking the time today, man. It's just such a pleasure
Oh
to have
man,
you here.
it's so great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Great to see
you
you.
too. Congratulations on all the success. We'll look
Thank
forward to the
you.
new album with the new stuff. It's going to be
Thank
fun.
you.
It's going to be
Thank
fun.
you.
All
I'm
right,
looking
thanks,
forward to
Leroy.
it, Mitch. Thank you.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute.